So hi there and welcome to another episode of Fact. You know what?
We've uploaded enough of these now.
Right, we've uploaded enough, you get it by now. We're here to talk about some bullshit. Let's go. So Brad, today's topic is musical moments that get you mad fucking hype. So for the audience at home, would you like to discuss the criteria for this one? While I just pour myself a bit more rum into this bastard.
Yes, I believe the criteria is that we're looking for moments in movies or in television.
Or video games. Or indeed any piece of media that can involve music.
Where the music comes in at just the right moment. It's just the right music. It gets you mad hype for what you're watching or playing.
Or happen to be doing at that moment in time. So, immediately I want to discount virtually every Disney movie. Because we had this discussion before, didn't we? If we just said what's the hypest music or best music in a piece of media, we'd just say, okay, well, Disney movies. And I think, though, they shouldn't count because my criteria for these moments is without the music, the scene or moment in question still works. It's just that the music perfectly complements it. So let's say, for example, we use the movie Frozen and Let It Go, an immensely popular song that a lot of people agree fits that scene. If you take that song out, what is that scene? That scene is a collection of shots of a woman walking around the wilderness, randomly firing bolts of ice out of her hands. And the same can be said for virtually every other Disney movie with a song in it, where if you take that song out, the scene it's in makes no sense.
I think it's the same for any musical. I think you have to discount, for the most part, all diegetic music.
Yes.
Because it needs to be there for the scene to work, because it's there for the characters.
Yeah, and that by default rules out most Disney movies, because even if they are pegged as musicals, they're basically musicals. And before we continue to the new editor we've got in for these videos, I know that this one's going to get copyright strikes out the fucking arsehole, so I don't care. I'll take the hit on this one because I just want to get hype and talk about some cool shit. Put in as long a clips as you need to demonstrate what we're talking about. And you know what? Don't even bother putting in that royalty-free music in the background, because fuck it, this one's going to get flagged by somebody. You may as well put in the songs we're talking about. And we're going to start with what I think is it's diametrically opposed to Disney movies, and that is DreamWorks movies.
Right.
And we're going to start with How to Train Your Dragon.
I knew this was coming up.
Because we talked about it earlier, but let's not put it Specifically, in the very first movie, the first flight with Hiccup and Toothless. Because I think it's John Powell did the soundtrack for that movie. That first flight, I think the music swells at the exact right fucking moment where you just get that little feeling in your chest of going, oh, that's so good.
It does it multiple times in one scene.
Throughout that scene. The scene's 2 minutes long. Yeah. But there are multiple moments throughout that where the music swells exactly the right moment. And my favourite part of that scene being where Hiccup has got the sign in front of him, How to Fly the Dragon, How to Train Your Dragon, and he throws it away because he's like, you know what? I ain't got time, I've got to fly on instinct. And he kicks his foot back, and he perfectly knows the exact thing to do at that moment. Because at that moment, boy and dragon become one. And they fly, and the music swells, and he does all the sick loops through the... Oh, it's the best. If you listen carefully enough, it's almost like you can hear it. Almost like the editor that we've got editing this video is playing it in the background right now, because we don't give a fuck about copyright strikes. And it's swelling right now. It's like... Dun, 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 dun. The best bit is as well, they do it again in the second movie, and they use that original piece of music by John Powell as the leitmotif for the song Where No One Goes. And during again a flight with Hiccup and Toothless, as boy and dragon are now more in sync than ever, and they do the same thing again. And it's a cheap ass trick, I know, but they have the music swell just as they go above the clouds, and he does the thing where he puts his arms out and they fly in unison. It's oh, it's so good. And I think as well, because there's a great example of how we can do this and not have it work, because you pointed this out to me when I mentioned that this is what I wanted to talk about for the first example. The whole first flight thing is a trope in cinema, and it's used in the film Big Hero 6. And we watched that scene immediately after watching the How to Train Your Dragon one, and after both me and Brad yeah, you go, Hiccup and Toothless, you fly that motherfucking dragon, you go. You do those loop-the-loops. And the Big Hero 6 one does exactly the same thing. And I read it's going to put it behind us now, put an example, both scenes, and show that they do the exact same thing. They have the bit where, they fall slowly, and then just before they hit the water, fly off at 100 miles an hour. But if you watch the Big Hero 6 version of that scene, it just falls completely flat because the music choice is just so safe and generic, and it doesn't really, like, you know, complement the action whatsoever. And I think that's a shame. But it shows that, like, you know, that John Powell soundtrack in How to Train Your Dragon is fucking phenomenal. Because, like, every time I watch it, and I've watched that film like a dozen or so times, I fucking love How to Train Your Dragon, it still gets me every time. Where you just see, where they go into that dive and he goes, boom, right at the end, it's like, oh, yes!
You don't realise how common that trope is, though, until you start discussing it. Because it's like Iron Man, Titan 80, Harry Potter 3.
Yeah.
They all do the first flight
And they
trope
always do
with
the same
music.
thing, where the wing touches the tip of the water and cuts through the water. But How to Train Your Dragon did it best, because they actually hired a composer who knew what the fuck he was doing. Like, you know what? This shit is awesome. Let's, like, compose a piece of music that complements this scene. And to go back to the criteria that I, like, mentioned at the start of this piece, that scene on its own is awesome, but the music just elevates it to being like, this is now art. This went from being like a high-pass piece of action in a great film to being like, this is my favourite moment from a piece of media released in the last decade. So in that vein, Brad, do you have another example?
So because we've discounted like most Disney,
Yes.
because they're all musicals for the most part.
Pretty much, yeah.
I'm actually going to throw a Disney one in, but it's not from a musical. It's from the first Pirates of the Caribbean film.
I think I know which bit you're going to be talking about.
It's the first introduction of Captain Jack Sparrow.
Yeah.
Because the music in the background of that just, it perfectly fits the introduction of the character.
Yeah.
And it's the first time you hear his theme, I think.
Yeah, and it fades out and it comes back in at the right moment, and then you have that, like, the iconic shot of him riding the top of the boat, and he steps off just onto the pier as his boat sinks down. And that is a great moment, but I'm going to counter the gauntlet you've thrown with the word Disney on it with a bigger gauntlet with the word Shrek 2 written on it.
Oh Christ, you're bringing it back to DreamWorks.
No, you know what? I am going to play the Shrek 2 card, and there's a lot of music used in the Shrek series, and I think, like, a lot of the songs do fit, but I'm going to go for, at the end of Shrek 2, like, you know, I Need a Hero. And I know it's a cheap trope to have a song that's describing the action that's going on screen in the background.
I know I said earlier that diegetic sound was ruled out, and this one is because someone's singing it.
And in most Disney movies, they always have a singer sing the song, and then an actor or an actress do the voice of the character. Whereas in this one, they actually recorded a cover of I Need a Hero and got Jennifer Saunders to sing it, and by all accounts, she did a fucking phenomenal job. And I'd also, like, go back to my criteria and say, if you cut out the song, like, from that scene, and just have the bit of, like, you know, Shrek rushing the castle, it works as an action scene. If you just had, like, you know, generic, I don't know, like, Big Hero 6 orchestral music in the background, it'd work. But just the inclusion of I Need a Hero sung by a character in the fucking movie. And as well, they even go to the effort of establishing that it makes sense in the context of the scene because she's singing it on stage. And as well, the action occurs in real time as the song is being sung, which a lot of movies, like, you know, that overuse this trope, like, it's a rule they don't really follow. And I've always appreciated how the music fades out at the moment Puss in Boots jumps off the back of Donkey, and it, like, goes out to, like, this wonderful, like, you know, little piano-y bit. And he turns around and goes to Shrek and goes, I will repay my debt. And he looks at all the guards in the eye. He does the Puss in Boots big eye face. And the music swells back up. And he's just like, you know what? I'm just going to do some sick-ass pussy combos on your bum holes. And just start doing all the backflips. Like, go Puss in Boots. So good.
It is done really well how the music cuts out for them to have that small conversation.
Yeah.
What are you doing? It is time to repay my debt.
And you're like, oh, it's like, oh, Pussy Boots. That thing as well, I'm going to make that noise a lot. And that's because that is the reaction you want from these scenes.
That's the hype noise.
Yeah, that's the noise of going, oh yeah, it's so fucking cool. The thing is though, did you get that from Big Hero 6? When he's like flying on the back of Baymax, and he's like, oh, yay, generic ass orchestral soundtrack in a Disney movie, I've never heard this before. And then you just cut to, like, Shrek 2, and you've got Jennifer Saunders singing I Need a Hero. And I would have Shrek rides a giant gingerbread man. And then you've got a cat in immaculately tailored boots doing fucking Raphael from Soul Calibur combos on 40 guards at once.
Who'd have thought a bunch of men pouring milk onto a huge gingerbread man could be so epic?
It's so good. And then you have, like, oh, there's just so many moments. As well, I'm going to give an honourable mention to another piece of media that uses the exact song, and that's Saints Row 3.
Okay.
So your final mission in Saints Row 3 is you're given the choice, like, either go confront the main bad guy or save your friend. And when that choice is presented to you, as you, like, fight your way basically through an entire city of enemies, I Need a Hero starts playing in the background. And it plays for the entire time you do that mission, no matter what you do. And you are constantly always being attacked. And it's a point in the game where basically your character is so max level, nothing's going to fucking hurt you. So you are basically sprinting through that game, drop kicking every motherfucker in your way to rescue your friend as that plays.
You know the first time I ever heard that song?
Yeah.
Short Circuit 2. When
do they do it in that as well?
When Johnny Five gets trashed and gets back up,
Oh,
they
he
play
does.
that song as he takes out all the baddies.
Yeah,
and that's mad hype as
that
well.
song should just be in everything. It's so good. But
I would argue though the Bonnie Tyler version, the original version, isn't as good as the Jennifer. I know people are going to think it's blasphemy, but
Yeah.
the Jennifer Saunders one is really good.
it's because it's the character in the film. It's not even that the song's better, it's the fact that the actress in the film sings the song. It fits more in context and you can accept it more. But anyway, we've talked too much about I Need a Hero, so Brad, do you have another example to counter Shrek 2? Can you counter the girth of Shrek?
Well, I remember when we were discussing this, we mentioned a few times about music in games that changes between...
contextual music.
Contextual music, that's it. Because the new Devil May Cry is going to have it.
Yes.
And obviously you go mad hype about Revengeance, which also has it.
you can't link Revengeance from me, Brad.
I'm giving it to you.
Oh, you're giving
I'm passing it over.
Okay, well, thank you for passing. Like, basically, you've just done what we've done there is we're on the same side now, and you're passing me shit to spike into the pavement. And oh god, Revengeance's music for people who don't know, like every time you enter a boss battle, it will play like the boss's theme song, and the boss is always like it's a piece of like instrumental music up until like predetermined hype moments where you get to you have like marginal control over them, but they occur when you do a set amount of damage to the enemy, and then you'll go into like slow motion and like kick them off a building or like cut a piece of their armor off. But at that exact moment, that's when the lyrics come in, and because like the game is specifically programmed to only play lyrics when those moments happen, it always feels like the music is perfectly synced to your playing.
So when you go into like the what's the precision mode called?
Zandatsu.
Yeah, when you go into that and start cutting and the lyrics just kick in,
Yeah.
ready for you to slice.
And
it to
the
pieces.
power vocals always come in at the exact moment something hype happens. So it always feels like the song is perfectly in sync with the action on screen. So which means that it perfectly fits with your play style. And the best example, there's so many good songs in that game, but the one that always gets me is when you fight Monsoon. Because not only does he give a big ass speech about memes, where he literally uses the line, "Your memes end here," which is fucking brilliant. It's the most butt rock soundtrack ever, and you enter Ripper mode, which is like Raiden's Devil Trigger, where he just glows with red sex power for like the entire thing. The entire fight occurs in slow motion, and it ends with him just firing tanks at you using using Lorentz force, and it ends with you running up this giant stone pillar that he fires at you using magnet power that you run up as a guitar solo plays, that you jump off, cut through a tank, and then drop kick into a wall, and then just go absolutely ape shit with your sword.
I'm going to regret this as well.
Okay.
But seeing as we're talking about video games, Transformers Devastation.
That's another one. We're going to do it. Brad, what's the line? You know how many times have I said the line from Transformers Devastation when you fight Starscream? It starts with "Prepare to be lost in space, Autobots." And there's a Transformers Devastation. It doesn't have contextual music a la Revengeance or Devil May Cry 5, but it does just have a really good butt rock soundtrack. And if you want to get me mad hype when watching your content or playing it, just put in some butt rock, which is just generic ass, fast-paced rock music that has no real, rhythm to it. I give a fuck. Because it just starts, one, you're fighting a jet that transforms into a smarmy asshole. Two, the fight occurs in space. Three, it starts with this said smarmy asshole jet robot saying, "Prepare to be lost in space." And your mission prompt is, unleash true Autobot justice on Starscream. It's just this sick, awesome, fucking just heavy like metal track just kicks the fuck in. It's like, yeah, this is the soundtrack to your domination, Starscream. Get fucking wrecked.
So we've gone through quite a few mainstream ones.
Yes.
So let's wind this back for the last one. Let's introduce people to something they may not have seen. Do you have anything that's like less well known?
Well, one that I've always wanted to mention in a video we've done before, we've never had like an opportunity, is Run Lola Run, which is a amazing like German movie, I believe, that both me and you must have watched when we did media in college, because it's media teachers love this film. It's basically three short films like 20 minutes long that make 1 hour long movie. And as the title suggests, it's about a woman called Lola who's got to run her fucking ass off.
And she fucking runs.
She does, yeah. And it's like 3 different versions of the same scenario, and it's shot in real time. And the song that accompanies the first run in the film just fits it so well. And I'm assuming as I'm talking, there is a clip of like Lola hauling an immense amount of ass, playing either over my voice
or
over one of my shoulders. And that scene is fantastic because in a modern movie, she'd be doing like all kinds of crazy parkour, she'd be doing backflips, there'd be all kinds of like weird cuts, she'd be like, like dodging through a supermarket. But no, it's just a static shot of just this woman with red hair hauling so much ass. And the song that plays in the background, I think it's really understated. Like compared to some of the other songs he talked about, it's not as bombastic or as in your face, but it's just this really subtle, understated, like German trance track that reminiscent of a ticking clock.
Yeah, I'd say it's not one that makes you feel hype, it's one that builds hype.
Yeah. And it doesn't ever like reach a crescendo, it's just constantly in the background, like a ticking clock, because obviously that's the plot of the movie. It's like she's got 20 minutes to save her boyfriend, spoilers, and she's just hauling ass as it plays. And it's just one of those ones that's like, this really fits the action on screen. Like, the person who chose this song to be the soundtrack for this scene and then edited it all together to fit is a fucking hero. And I think that's why it's like something that media teachers love showing media students, because like, this is an arty-farty film that doesn't take itself too seriously. Also, here's just like a woman with like the fattest ass in the world hauling ass across Germany. Isn't this shit great? There's so many. And the thing is though, there are other ones we haven't yet mentioned, but for runtime, we have to cut this one short. So, if you have any examples of like, songs that perfectly complement and then hype up the action that's currently happening on screen, let us know in the comments, unless I've disabled them, if that's still a thing we're doing. But, oh man, that fucking Run Lola Run. I need to go watch that film again. It's fucking fantastic.